Hello, good evening. I think we're a few minutes early, so I'm going to give a few minutes for people to join us. Hi, Chichi. Good evening. Um, Anyone who has come in, please go ahead and invite other people. Tell us where you're calling from, where you're joining from, first of all. I'm always a bit uncomfortable when I'm online. I don't know whether it's my right hand I'm seeing or my left hand. It's always a bit confused. So good evening, everyone. Good evening. I want to just wait, give a few minutes, one more minute or so our people can join in. So it can be 9 o'clock on the dot. I think it's a minute to nine right now. So let's just give people a little more time to join in. How was your day? Hope you had a good one. So I'm going to just go ahead and, it's not easy getting people to watch certain things because everybody is so busy and so occupied doing different things. So at times you have to keep on telling people, and sometimes it's not something that they're interested in. Some things are more interesting to a variety of people. Um, but this is information that I believe needs to go out, and that is why I will continue to send it out. So right now we only have one person viewing, so that's why I want to just hold on a bit. Only Sister Chichi is here. Um, so I'm going to wait for a few more people to come in, and then we start. Anyone that logs, if you're in here, please just go ahead and just introduce yourself. Just say where you're tuning in from. Okay, just say where you're tuning in from. Just say where you're tuning in from. And tell me if you can hear me first of all. I want to be sure you can hear before I get our guest in. I want to make sure we are live. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and start because I want to keep to time. I do, and because we're recording, I live, I don't want it to have too much time with people not being on here. So I'm going to go ahead and start just the way we are, and people will join in later. Okay. So my name is Choma Moma. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here. Welcome for those who are here. This topic is really important. Just last 2 weeks ago, earlier in the year, I got a leading to talk about addiction because that's something that a lot of people are worried about. When you see people, who have children who are getting ready to for university, because if as a lot of my I have this course, I do this webinar about helping your child choose the right university, and one of the major issues people complain about or people are worried about when they're trying to choose the right school for their child is, oh, drugs. I don't want my child to do drugs. I don't want my child to go to this school or that school. They get really concerned about it. And and I said, okay, let's really talk about this thing. And as God will have it, I met David Polarami. His video is also up here. I think we were there for almost 2 hours, and he spoke about his own story, and I got a lot of feedback of that. And after I got that feedback, Edache Abu Felix, got in touch with me. He's like a classmate from law school, and he too spoke about his own story with addiction. Because when we hear addiction, most times we think about drugs. That's the one that scares us. But there's all sorts of addiction. There's addiction to gaming, addiction to pornography, addiction to betting. That's the one that a lot of young people are really losing their mind overnight is betting. Addiction to alcohol. There's so many kinds of addiction. We want to make sure our children are not caught in this trap, because the truth is that this is they're transitioning into adulthood. If we're not able to get them now and make sure that they are safe from this thing, it can become a lifelong problem, God forbid. So it's really good to have someone like Felix here. So watch the other video with David. Make sure you connect with me. All my details will be shared. Claire, can you help me share any of my details that you have, because I cannot find um on this call, but she's not here. Why she is. So share any of my details that you can, so people can connect if they want to take any of my courses, my coaching program for working parents, take the class for those trying to choose the right university, buy my books, my children's books are on Amazon and Roving Heights. You can get them um, through any of these mediums. And I think I have one of my books here. I can show you. This is one of my books. Fun trip to the village. I write books to teach children values. Something I'm very passionate about. Also, all that information will be shared. And without much ado, I want to introduce Felix to you. Felix is I like his intro. He's a barrister, he's a barrister of law. Like I said, he's a learned colleague of mine. He's also a lover of the gospel, a preacher of the gospel. He's a son of Jesus. He's someone who loves God passionately, and he wants to make a difference, especially with people who are struggling with addiction and other things. He's also the husband of one wife, only one. Okay, we're back up. We had small connection issues, but we're
Yeah,
here. Okay, so Felix, good to have you here. So right away, I want you to
thank you
just go
for
ahead
having
and share, yeah, share your story. Share, your story of how you started, what happened that led you into um, having to deal with addiction to alcohol, and the milestones along the way, and how you were able to get out of that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for having me. I thank you and I thank God for this opportunity to share my story. For me, it's a testimony. It's my own way of telling people of God's greatness, God's mercy, and the power in the name of Jesus. Uh, it all started like every child. I like to look at the mind of a child. Like it said, is a tabula rasa, a plain slate. It is
Mm-hmm.
what you
Very
write
true.
on it that determine how far that child goes in future. A lot of us, as parents, seem to forget that. The truth is, there are the first critical writer on that plain slate are the parents, and our writing is more act on the mind of a child by our own conduct more than our words. What a child picks up more of what the parents do than what they say. Then after the parents, then comes the environment. Then comes when the child gets to the age of decision. Then he can now begin to think for his or herself. But the critical first two, parents, environment, would have positioned that child for whatever thoughts is going to develop afterwards. I was born into a polygamous home. My mom actually left from her own story. She left my dad, when I was just 6 months, and she left with me. She is of a Muslim background. And when she left, I was growing up with her. All my first 5 to 6 years were with her. And that get me to be close to her at that stage, close to her and close to her people. And somewhat close to my maternal grandfather too. Um, that age was too young, but I was able to pick one or two things. Relevant to this discussion is the fact that her own family, I see nobody taking alcohol because of their religious background. I had never seen my late grandpa taking alcohol or buying for anybody. So I grew up with that thinking while on that. But one night, she came back and carried me on her laps. And I just heard the smell of alcohol. Because while with them, I saw it, from the discussion elders have around you, it registered in you. So at that tender age, I knew it was wrong. I turned and looked up, but I couldn't say anything. I was so young. But I knew I just jumped off her laps and walked away. But it's registered in me. You can imagine how young I was then. I know I was just between 5 and 6 then. But I can still remember. Today I am 50. And I still remember this. So something was registered in me. Mom was doing something wrong. But I couldn't tell her anything. Fast forward at 7, 8, my dad took over custody of me. And I met a different setting. The alcohol that was abnormal in my maternal home is the norm in my paternal home. My dad wasn't going to church. He has sympathy for Christianity, but he wasn't going to church. Sunday, he was a good man. He's late now. He was a good man. I learned a whole lot of things from him. Integrity, sincerity, and all that I learned from him. He was actually a good man. But he wasn't going to church. Sunday morning in our house was the day set aside for friends to come around. As early as they can come, they are drinking already. And we'll watch all this happen. We'll be the one to wash the glasses, take drinks to them, go and buy drinks for them, and all that. And as early as 7, 8 of age, when you are crying as a child, either him or any of his friends will say, come and take, and they'll give to you. I wasn't seeing anything. So having moved to my paternal home, what I was seeing as abnormal on the other side became a norm here and all that. And I remember when my first time of really, because all this other one will, hello, can you hear me? Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
that there's something I want to ask you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
So I was saying that, sorry, because I didn't hear you. Did you say that when you used to cry or you were upset, your father would use alcohol to like pet you or appease you?
Yes.
Okay.
To pet,
Okay.
to just say, take, stop crying.
Okay.
And you just take a sip. You just take a little sip. You say, it's okay, and you go. That is introduction.
Okay.
Unknown to him, we're getting introduced. Not just me, my siblings, my step ones, and all of us. Now, the problem with that is this. When I have an elder brother. At the age of 10, 11, I remember I was primary 5 or 6. I walked into the sitting room one afternoon, and I saw my elder brother and his friends. They say they are having a party, in the neighborhood. They want to take alcohol before they go for the party. And for the first time, I was given a bottle of my own. And I can't remember whether I finished it or not, but I know that was the first time I held a bottle of my own. But what all this means is that in me, the trend has been set for no fault of mine. I wasn't yet of that age. I may be right or correct or wrong. 8, 9, 10 is still, that infancy is still in you. But I have been programmed for this. Now, it's not a problem because I wasn't messing up. My dad that drinks, I never saw him mess up. It's when I got matured, I now begin to know certain things was actually influenced by alcohol and all that. But on getting to secondary school, it was in my senior secondary school now, a teenager, I had already started going to joint with friends. Go far away from the neighborhood where we feel nobody can recognize us. And then, or go to a friend's house whose parents are not very strict and you can have your way. And then, so gradually you go with it. At that time, I saw nothing wrong with it. It was, for me, fun. Social drink. I wasn't doing it always. Once a while, we'll gather as friends and we'll go have it. So until I came out of secondary school, got to the university, the real problem actually started in my 400 level. That's when, from being a social drinker, I became an addict. I became somebody who began to crave for this, began to skip classes, grades begin to drop. In my final year, it was already something else. I remember one time a lecturer called me into his office. He was the exam officer then. And he called me and said, "What's happening to you? You started very well." He showed me my grade from 100, 200 level, 300 level, and showed me where he started dipping from second semester of my 400 level. And he said, he was talking to me in my first semester 500 level. And he told me clearly that, look, you have dropped from 2-1 by 3 points. You can still recover if you do go extra mile in this semester and the next semester of your final year. And I thank him. I looked at it. He never knew what was going on with me, but I knew what was wrong with me. I knew it was this alcohol thing, skipping classes and all that. But with all that, I still couldn't stop myself until I graduated. And for me, I tell people, I say, it's God that even wrote the exam for me to have even been able to make a second class lower division. But I could get away with it in the university, but I could not get away with it in law school. So after the bar exam, I think I failed about 2 courses. I had to go for a receipt, and it struck me bad. Seeing my mates being called to bar in 2003, I had to wait for 2004, and God, can you hear me? Your picture is off. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Go ahead. We can hear you.
We have connection problem.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, where did I stop? Where did you? Where was the last? What was the last thing you picked from me?
I think you spoke about you couldn't escape the issues when you got into the higher institution, into law school.
Law school. So,
Yeah, so law school.
but I was able to be sober enough to uh, go through the receipts and got called to bar in 2004. But again, it came back worse than ever before. I was a lawyer already, but couldn't do anything for myself. Couldn't hold a firm, work job with any firm because as early as 6, there is this thing they call in my area. Uh, uh, there's this joints that you have early in the morning. You have young boys, young men, as early as 5 a.m., 6 a.m. They call it baraga. You're already there, roots. You are drinking. So by 8, 9 in the morning, you are out already. You're down and out. You cannot coordinate yourself anymore. So like that. Now, the question is, how did it get there? The shame, seeing yourself getting drunk, seeing family members getting you off the streets, friends and all that. The question is, why can't you stop? You couldn't stop because you are already an addict. You know you have a problem. Deep within you, you know that this person you see every day is not a real you. But it's difficult to get the real you back to life. So it was so bad that I begin to. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Very well, loud and clear. Yes. Please, if you
Okay.
can hear, please say so. We can hear.
Yeah. So bad that begin to lose friends, begin to suffer rejection from family. If I got to that point that even before I left university, my father can only give me enough money for school. But I have other ways of getting money from his company. So he thought he could his own way of discipline me is to cut my benefits, cut the level. He can only give you what he feels should be enough to keep you. But one thing with addictions, any amount in your hand is enough. And like I said, there are other ways I could at that time get money without him knowing from his company and all that. So I will still have more than enough in school, and it all goes to sponsor to fuel this addiction thing. And the same people who got you into this will be the first to reject you. Everybody around you put you aside. Relationships crashed, and you now you're left alone. That's a bigger problem. A human, we are human. Every human being is a social animal. You always want who connects with you. Anybody who connects with you, whatever the motive is, that's the person you go to. So I was now left with that circle of people who love doing what was my problem. Those who enjoy what was my problem. Those who were victims like myself. And whether it got to that point that whether you have cash on you or not, they can get it to you. And then you now say, why, knowing all this, why can't you stop? When you get to know the definition of alcohol, I mean addiction, you know that is not just a happy thing. People should call it what it is. It's actually a disease of the brain. You may start a social thing and all that, but at that point that you can no longer resist, at that point that you begin to crave for it, you have a disease of your brain, of the brain. And it should be treated as such. It needs to be taken, you need to take, just like you treat a heart patient, you get the experts that will handle that. But a lot of people, like in my case, everybody around me believe I like some people will tell me, is it not with your hand that you lift the glass? It's more than my hand lifting the glass. Something controls you to lift that glass, and that's your senses. Your senses have been thwarted, have been twisted to go in a direction. And the definition, they say, addiction is a compulsive compulsive seeking of drug or use of drug despite its adverse consequences. It's not as if you are ignorant of the consequences. You are not ignorant of it. Or you can define it as a craving for something intensely. Craving for something intensely. Loss of control over its use and continuing involvement with it despite its adverse consequences. Let me tell you what happens. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a professional in that area, but I'll tell you practical experience. I try to observe myself when I start fighting back, fighting to get myself free. I observe something. When the craving comes, the first thing it does is your brain gets blank from the consequences, from what you suffered the previous time you took it. You can't remember. Your mind will not go to the shame you suffer, the losses you suffer. At that particular time, the crave comes. When you're going to get a relapse, the only thing your mind is directing you towards is the high, the fun. Your mind will not remember the shame, the falling into the gutter, the insults, the fights, the losses. I can't remember the number of phones I lost within the period. You understand that? So why would you call, what do you call that? Is it still the person, the victim, that is making that decision? It's a big problem. Like it was for me, and it's still with so many people. And the problem with alcohol, a lot of people who stigmatize those that do weed. That's why they go into hiding before they do it. Those that take drugs, cocaine, and all that, they go into hiding. For alcohol, you don't need to hide. You don't need to hide because the society have received it as a part of the social, part of social life, entertainment, and all that. So you don't need to go hiding. But it's as bad as any other form of addiction, if not worse. Because when the toll will come on you, it will be too late. When I was already much into it, my dad never knew his son was already suffering. Because I could still coordinate myself, do my chores. In fact, for him, I was still his favorite. When he got to know, it was already too late. The damage was already done.
So let me ask you a question at this point.
Yes.
Let me ask you something. So, and I think I like the distinction you've made because, like you said, with drug abuse, nobody is smoking weed or igbo in public. But even a lot of us that are watching, we go to weddings. social events, and it's okay. We do a toast with wine. It's nothing. So
Yes.
it's it's socially acceptable. And your father, I'm assuming your father was not he wasn't an alcoholic, so to say.
Mm.
At what
Yes.
point did you know that, look, I have a problem? At what point do you differentiate between, oh, this is just social drinking and I actually there's something going on here? How can you detect that somebody, this is not just the person is not just drinking. This is not just a, oh, let me just have a beer. It's more than that. What is the distinction? What was it for, like for you, and you knew that, look, I definitely have a problem?
Now, where you, the first thing that will give you the sign is you doing what you know you ordinarily have done. My first, the first time I started getting worried with myself was I was a union leader in the university. I was respected. I had followers. But there was this day I got so drunk. I didn't know what I did. And the very next morning, one of the younger students came to my room. In fact, he was there before I woke up. And he started telling me what happened the previous night. I never expected, I was ashamed of myself. When he was able to tell me vividly all that transpired that night, he was one of those that brought me into my room. So when he told me all this, I said, real? Is this me? He showed me some things. So that now show me that, tells me that it is no longer taking alcohol for fun. It's drifting into another thing. But I couldn't stop myself. The second time was when my lecturer called me, like I stated earlier, and told me about my grades and all that. I knew there was a problem, but I couldn't stop myself. So you always get to know when you see yourself doing that thing that you cannot do. And when you see yourself not having the willpower to stop yourself, you know that's a problem. If you give me food, I eat only when I want to eat. I can be hungry and come to your house. If it's not a place I've made up my mind to eat, there's nothing that you do that will make me eat there. Why? Because I am in control. I am not addicted. But with addiction, you can take it anywhere, anyhow, any place. You may think you have a brand. The moment you don't have money for that brand again, you go below to what you can afford. That was how I drifted backward till I started taking Ogogoro with Agberus. Because at that point, I was no longer in school to get money from my dad. He has cut me off his company completely. I couldn't get results because you are a lawyer now. You should. He told me clearly, if you're progressing, I can assist you, but you can no longer be a burden on me. Not that he could not take care of me even at that point, but he just felt he cannot finance my alcohol life. You understand?
Talking about
But
the
still, you
finance
cannot
part,
stop.
so talking about the finance part, because that's something some people do. Maybe they know their child is addicted to drugs or something. So, okay, you know what? I will stop giving you money. Does that solve the problem if you don't have access to the funding? Because you've said it over and over again that even when they gave you just enough, you still found a way.
It's not a solution. It only drives you further to the. Let me tell you something. I think maybe I should just take it whole with how I would advise families to handle this addiction thing, whether alcohol or any other one. Now, in my case, when I couldn't get financed again, I told you I had to go. A Coke bottle of Ogogoro at that time was 10 naira. was 10 naira. And the people, this set of people are so united. There are two set of people that I have seen so united. I hope it's for a positive reason. Smokers. You don't need to have money to smoke. It's just for you to know, go to where people smoke, and they will gladly share with you. The next set of people are those who drink this paraga or gogoro. 10 naira bottle of Coke. You see, it's difficult to go to that place and you not see people who buy 50 naira at that time. I don't know how much it is now. 50 naira means 5 bottles of Coke. And 3, 4, 5 of you, it's more than enough. It's just too much. So at that point, I don't even need money in my pocket. And the funny thing is, these people already know he's a lawyer. So you are sort of that local champion. Some buy you this thing just to get free advice. That's where they consult you. when people go to consult lawyers in their offices. So you are giving that free advice on that bottle of, and that you now see. So withdrawing money from me, has it solved it? No. Rather, it drove me down, further deep down. What I was craving for at the point was, who can I hold hands with in this struggle? I will get to that point later. But what I would advise parents is, first, when you notice it, just admit to yourself that your child has a problem. And nothing can cure that problem than love. In as much as I would say you control what you don't give money, yes, but don't push that child afar. There are certain basic things that child needs. Don't give the cash, but buy that thing for him. Don't buy things like phone, laptop, things that he can easily go and sell and convert to money. No. But there are things that you know this is for his immediate consumption. Draw him or her close. Make him or her your friend. Don't go with this card of rejection. You reject him, someone out there is waiting to embrace him or her, and it's not for good. There's a cycle that is there waiting for him to come and join them on the streets. So show that love. Target number 2, target his or her sober moment where you can have frank discussion with him or her. Where you can let the person understand that this problem is not yours alone. Because the first step to getting released from addiction is for the child or the person to admit that he has problem. Once that person admits that he has problem within himself, admit that there is a problem, he's on a step towards recovery. The rest is what the family is able to do around him. For me, for many years, I knew I had problem. I admitted to myself, but there is nothing around me, no one around me to assist. I'm not blaming anybody. It's not their fault, it's their decision. They felt that's the right thing to do, ignorantly, though. But that's not the solution. So if you can get those steps, show love, get him to understand, share the problem, let the person know it's a burden we all carry, then always make that child understand that you still have confidence in him or her. It's better than what he's saying or she's saying. You still trust and believe you are a great child. You can make it. Let's work it out together. That child will start listening. Don't also be shy of letting that child know how much damage he or she is doing to himself and doing to the family. You need to know at every, but not that you would throw it at his face by way of insult. Is when you are angry that you talk about it, or when he come to ask for something. That's when guys don't. No, that's not the time to talk about it. Let it be a frank discussion. Then, as much as it's a disease created by habit, it's also spiritual. It's also a spirit thing. The day you start sipping alcohol, what you've done is to open the door for the devil to now reign. The Bible says in John 10:10, it said, the thief cometh to steal, to kill, and to destroy. He's sneaking by what you call social drinking, and then begin to use it to torment you. The only way you can get out of it is to get a higher spirit. That's why the Bible tells you, drink not wine wherein there is excess, but drink of the spirit. And I can't see your picture again if you're hearing me. And the next thing is seek help from professionals, psychologists, clinical psychologists. Seek their help. There are people who are into rehab, addiction helpers. Seek their help. It's very, very important. Now, there is something that happened on my way to recovery. I don't know whether you can hear me. I can't see your picture.
Anytime you don't see me, just know it's my own network. You're good. I think they can still hear you.
Okay.
So
You know, the moment I can't see your face again, I was zoomed off.
no. You're good. There was something I wanted to ask you. So
Now,
I guess this is a good time to ask before you continue. What if the person is in self-denial? Because I'm sure, that's why I asked, at what point do you know you have a problem? So some people believe, oh, for instance, I'll give an example. Maybe it's weed I'm smoking. Everybody does weed. Especially children of a certain age, is becoming more normal, or everybody drinks a bit. It's not really a big deal. So the parent is showing you love, the parent is saying, I'm there for you, but the child, the individual, has refused to accept that he has a problem. And we see it a lot. You see someone who is drunk, he still wants to drive. And he say, no, I'm okay, I'm not drunk. Meanwhile, you are obviously, drunk. What if
well,
the person refused to accept?
that's not the point. That's not um, the point of self-denial. At that point, he's not himself. He's not in control of himself already. He's
Okay,
already
so that's
drunk.
maybe that's not a good
He's
example. Maybe that's
where
not a good
no
example. But maybe
where self. No, I understand what you were trying to put across.
yeah,
Where when he's sober, when he's not drunk,
yes,
and you're talking with him, like I gave you an instance. The first time, one of the things that struck me was that student that came into my room to tell me what transpired the previous night. Could I have denied that? Do you understand? The shirt I wore home was not my own. How could I have denied that? He came with my own shirt. How torn and rumpled it, and what led to that, he told me. And I can see my shirt in his hand. How could I deny that? For me, he's God sent. That was God fighting for me to get out. Because probably I would have, if he had just come to tell me stories, I would say he's making it up. But the evidence is in his hand. The shirt I was wearing at the time he was talking to me, I know it's not mine. You get the point? So within me, I don't need anybody to tell me that, look, I've lost it.
I understand.
You see? But it's not
Okay.
everybody that drink alcohol that misbehaves. I want you to understand that. It manifests in different ways. It's not every alcohol addict that misbehaves, that go into fight, lose control, and all that. Yes, they may be, but how do you know that such a person is an addict? I have a younger brother. He can drink as much as he wants, stand up, drive his car, and go smoothly. But how did he get to know that he's also an addict? He developed arthritis, and he started having problem with his heart. And the doctor told him, after asking, taking his details and all that, say, well, you need to stop drinking alcohol. If not, this is the path is going to lead your health to, and you're not going to last. He understood that, but he couldn't stop drinking alcohol. If you go back to the definition of alcohol, of addiction, what do you call that? He was also addicted. It took a whole lot of effort, and because I've gone through it, counseling him and all that, to be able to start managing his drinking habits, and gradually, when he gave his life to Christ, his own case also was up. So that's why I say alcohol is more dangerous than the one people are pointing at. A lot of addicts do not know they are addicts. A man if you go into his car, you always see a bottle of whiskey or any alcoholic brand. He's already an addict. That's one sign. In the office, in the car, in the bedroom, you are always there. Not just that they display it, but they actually deal with it. They drink it. How do you call that? You can't do without it. So by the time you begin to see all that, you just need to admit to yourself. But the confusion people have is they'll tell you, me, I drink, but I don't misbehave. I drink, but I don't misbehave. You don't misbehave, but your last child's school fees, you use it to drink in a joint. Is that not misbehavior? You kept money for a good reason, and after drinking one or two, you now exhaust that money or give it out in a manner that you shouldn't have. That's also a problem. So by the time you begin to see all these traces with yourself, you need to know. Now, like you say, coming back to your point, the person may still be in denial. It now becomes the duty of the person, just like that friend of mine. It's now your duty to find a way of getting the message across. There must be something he will do wrong. Like we're handling a case, he was living in denial. I just told them, ensure you all carry phone. Thank God for technology. Ensure that anytime he starts doing what's abnormal of his type of person, of his nature, video him. Not for scandal, video him and play it for him when he's sober. And it worked. He could not deny from that. On watching that video, he just had to admit, is this me? And that was the point he's still on. It's still a case that's still being handled. But from that point, at least he has admitted that he has a problem. So you need to start working. One of the times I was still struggling. I ran into this passage of the Bible, Proverbs 23, from verse 29. I'm going to read it out. He said, who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has contentions? Who has complaints? Who has wounds without cause? Because there are times I'll carry wound, I don't know how it comes. Sometimes I'll have my clothes torn, I don't know how. Who has redness of eyes? Those who linger long at the wine. Those who go in search of mixed wine. Do not look on the wine when it is red, when it sparkles in the cup, when it swirls around smoothly. At the last, it bites like a serpent and stings like a viper. Your eyes will see strange things, and your heart will utter perverse things. Yes, you will be like one who lies down in the midst of the sea, or like one who lies at the top of the mast, saying, they have struck me, but I was not hurt. They have beaten me, but I did not feel it. When shall I awake? When shall I awake that I may seek another drink? This is the Bible. This describes the life of an addict. You're going through all this. You got into it when the drink looks so innocent, looks so attractive, but it turns around to begin to bite you. I know what? The only thing on your mind is, when do I wake up to take the next drink? That self-denial in itself is an attribute of addiction. But the moment the person begins to agree with himself that he has a problem, then it means part of his sense is working. You understand? So that is it. That is denying does not mean he's not addicted. His problem is also
That's it.
that's it.
Okay, so Felix, okay, so you said a few things. You said one thing that doesn't help is rejecting the person, ostracizing
Very
them.
well.
Now you have they have a problem, show them love, so
Yes.
then you have confidence in them, try and seek help. Now for alcohol addiction, what can you what are the things you can say that can be done? You're showing the child love. We know we have rehab centers for drug addiction. For alcohol addiction, what can you do? Because it's so interesting that sometimes you see the person, you think it's okay, they're just drinking like everybody else, and then you now say, no, this is the problem. This person, all he cares about is his next drink. It's not allowing him study, it's not allowing him do anything, it's destroying his life. I need to help this person. As a parent, I've gotten him to admit he has a problem. He's even crying out for help. How can I help this child?
Now let me tell you, when you have the challenge of addiction of any kind in the family, a lot of people, I'm sorry, a lot of people are not looking at it from this way. What I'm going to say now. Don't look at the victim alone. Don't look at the child alone. Examine yourselves too. What are you doing in your own life that may contribute? Do you understand? Now, I'm your child, I'm drinking, I'm addicted, misbehaving, and all that. You, my parents, you are drinking also. You are not misbehaving, but you are drinking also. You lose a valid ground to even talk to me on it. You get the point? Maybe your question will be properly answered from my story.
Okay.
Now, my dad, despite his strictness and all that, he was making efforts in the wrong way to try to get me out of it. Taking me to places for prayers and all that and all that. Prayer cannot work when your mind have not accepted the Messiah whom you are praying through. It wasn't working. At another point, my uncle, who is a Muslim, took me, and if you're a Muslim, this thing will. And I was a Muslim for 2 years, and this is not to uh, attack the religion or anything, no, but it wasn't a solution either. At another point, traditional herbalists are not. In fact, they even start robbing my father of his money for my sake. It didn't work. Now what worked? My elder sister and my girlfriend, who is today my wife. These are the two people God used. What my elder sister did was to come home. Then my dad was already late, so I was just like more or less on my own. He came home, organized with my friend, and took me to Lagos, to our house in Lagos. And the husband is born again. What she has done unknown to her, I don't know. I don't think anybody educated her. But afterwards, when I started going through books and addiction handling, I discovered that what she actually did was isolating me, taking me off the environment where I was already used to, where um, um, the devices I use. Yes, it still continues, but at least I have somebody that is different, the husband now, who cares for me, who is not doing what I'm trying to run away from. I'm now in an environment that I can think. I have a life to compare mine with. The struggle was still on, but I knew that there is something to work. So that isolation helped me. Number two, taking me off there took me completely off friends. In that neighborhood, the people who are of my age, who should be my friend, they were not, luckily for me, they were not doing alcohol. So each time I do it, I see myself being the odd person where I was. Unlike the other place where I see myself like every other person, just that my case is a little different from them. So it began to help until. And what was the role of my girlfriend then? She was far away in school in Maiduguri. I was in Lagos. But somehow, her phone number is the only thing I always have in my head when I lose it. And I'll find a way, wow. And I'll find a way of calling her. I'll find a way of calling her. And she also find a way of linking with my sister and her husband. And they will find a way of controlling me back home. So she played a major role. And those care, if you can imagine if these two people also rejected me, I won't be talking today. At least they set the stage of a truth. It was getting better. One December, I now went home for Christmas. Christmas of 2008. No, 2009. I went home. And just in a few days, it was like nothing has happened before. I was back to where I was. And on the 26th, it was 2008. On the 26th December 2008, my elder sister had to practically forced me out of town back to Lagos. And 27th midnight, I just woke up crying because all along, not the husband have been preaching, they have been praying. Others too have been praying. But I think that was the night that my day came. Early hours of that morning, I woke up crying. I knelt down there and gave my life to Christ. And I knew there is something I've been running away from, and that's what I'm doing today. I've been running away from talking about Jesus. And that's where the problem is. You see, most times, if you are off your purpose or you are ignorant of your purpose, you always abuse what you have. You abuse the life you have. And it was that night that the change came. When I gave my life to Christ, the struggle began to. It didn't stop immediately. It didn't stop immediately. So let nobody say once you give your life to Christ, no. It didn't stop immediately, but I was gradually taking control of my life back. When there's a point you get to with addiction, your coming out of it can only be a gradual process. But there should be that consistency. There should be that support. There should be that support. And with time, the person will definitely come to the level that I am now, that you are the one even talking to other people about it. But also, don't lose your guard. Because the moment I gave my life to Christ and I saw the clear picture of the whole thing, the first thing I did was to cut off every friendship. I haven't cut off because my family is a very large one, so I cut off completely. I needed that time to work on myself. For 2, 3 years, I was not going home. I had nothing to go to the place for. My mom was not alive anymore. My dad was no more. So, and that's another pain. I don't want to talk so much on that. You understand? So, when you get to that level, you now see a clear picture, and the Holy Spirit will take over. It now becomes the battle of the superior against the inferior because you have accepted. If anybody tell you an addict can completely go off hook without the life of Christ in him, it's not true. You can do all the rehab, they help. I earlier had advised get the help of professionals, but they are to walk you into that state of mind that you can decide for Christ. That's where you get a permanent solution.
Thank you so much.
So
Thank you,
in
Felix. And
the initial stage, yes,
yeah, so you're saying something at the initial stage.
yeah, the initial stage, if people ask me, how did you stop it? I'll tell you, I don't know how. It's Christ's word. But when I begin to study more about, I begin to link it with some of the things that happen and all, I begin to understand how this thing works.
There's something, thank you for that. But there's something I want to ask, and this is something I've noticed because, like you said, I like that you said that, and I think Dr. Ebele, who is here, said the same thing. Some parents contribute to their child's alcohol addiction. They don't plan to. They just, they think, oh, I'm just drinking normally, and you really can't bring about the change you want if you're still doing that thing. If you, for instance, you have a child that
Yes,
is dealing
yes.
with food addiction, she's morbidly obese, and you say, oh, I want you to start to change your eating habits, and the same foods that she eats that are causing the addiction, you still eat them. You don't have the issue that she has, but those foods are still in the house. You're not helping her. You have to do a whole clean sweep of those things, to help the person achieve that change that they want. Now, what I want to ask is, the fact that you did not see anything negative associated to alcohol make it easy for you, because sometimes people say, oh, um when the seed was sown, so you said that at the initial stage you knew it was bad. You were around your mom's relatives who didn't drink, they were Muslims, they were not drinking, so you knew that there was something bad associated with it. But when you got to your dad, it seemed that there was now a positive association with alcohol. Did
Yes,
that play a
yes.
role? Okay, so
It, it, it,
definitely.
it
So
played
this is
is
something.
it played a significant role in what I became. I probably, if I had continued with staying with my maternal people, probably there's that chance that I may not have gone into alcohol, because anybody, even my mom who drinks, she don't dare do it in her father's house or close to her siblings. You get it? So there's that chance that I may not have. But the fact that it's a norm in my father's house was a catalyst for me to take that route. That's it. Yes, that you are a thief does not mean all your children will be thieves. But there's that likelihood that many of them will actually end up being thieves. The number that will escape that life will be the minority. So it is. Among my father's children, I have one, there's one of my step that I love so much. Up to date, he never tasted alcohol. The two of them, they never. But they grew up in the same environment,
The same
in the
environment.
same, yes. So that's a lucky spade. But when out of 25, only two is spared, what do you say?
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, it's not something you should talk about. Probably they saw, because they are far junior behind me. So they would have seen how this thing is affecting those before them. And that may have influenced, because those who are within my age bracket, none is spared.
Hmm.
Even my
Hmm.
elder brother, it was when he gave his life, he was lucky to have given his life to Christ early. That was when he stopped. He was the one that
Hmm.
even introduced me to to it. If not every other, the ones that I'm between 2 to 10 years older than, they all drink. Because for those other ones that start coming behind, begin to see
The
what
negative
was the
aspects.
negative aspect of it. They were able to take that, and it's only two out of the whole lot that I can confidently say they are not into it.
Hmm.
So
That's deep.
those are the issues.
That's deep. That's deep. Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Felix, for sharing, for your openness, for your vulnerability. Because the truth is that um, Christ came to set us free. But we need to be able
Yes.
to talk about these issues to even get the freedom and acknowledge what we have been through. There's a question I have. So we'll take questions now, because our time is fast spent. I know people have work tomorrow. So I'm going to take a few questions. And this is the first one. Mm. I know your answer already, Felix. Please go ahead and answer. She knows a father who
Right.
drinks alcohol with his first son in the house. What is your advice?
Well, um, the advice is the father should stop if he loves that child. If that father loves that child, he should stop. First, stop with himself. That is if he can, if he's not already addicted, and also stop leading that child onto destruction. Like I said, my father was drinking, but he was not misbehaving. He was able to make a whole lot for himself and all that. but it affected us as children. It would have been a
Hmm.
different ballgame if he wasn't drinking. Yes, someone may still go out and drink, but then it wouldn't have been the majority that would be under addiction.
Hmm.
What has helped us now is the light that came, the light of Christ that came into the family. That's what I've started getting people saved, rescued from that addiction. So
Rescue.
the father must, you see, you don't think once you start having children, don't just think about yourself alone. And especially the time we are in. In my time, anything alcohol smells. So you can easily, your child can easily come across and you perceive smell, you know that something has gone wrong. But yeah, there are many alcoholic drinks today. There are many alcoholic drinks today that carries no smell with it. I'm telling you, your child can go drink alcohol and walk by you, no smell. So things are fast changing. And so if he's doing that, not misbehaving, only God knows when you discover. So first, the father that drinks with the child is the child's number one problem. Every child look up to their parents. Whatever you are doing is the right. So who would talk? You just have to stop. Find a way of stopping himself for the child's sake, then he can stop the child.
Hmm. Okay, thank you, Felix. And like you said, at a point you're celebrated. Yeah, they hail you when you can drink well. You're like a
Yes,
champion.
yes.
Until
Champion.
they start seeing the negative
Yes.
aspects. This guy
And,
is acting foolish, or he's disgracing, then they start to withdraw,
and
and
everybody japa.
aha, the japa, you find yourself alone. Um,
You are
and
alone.
this is my own question. For like in a society, for instance, in the UK, for instance, drinking is a culture. Going to the pub is normal, And in the south of Nigeria, in the middle belt, I want to say the south, middle belt, and even
Sorry,
the south, yes,
I didn't hear what
culture.
you just said.
I was saying in
Hello,
some
I didn't
places it's a
hear.
culture. Can you hear me?
Yes,
In some
yes, I can
places
hear
it's a
you.
culture. For instance, some parts of the middle belt, some parts of the south, they use alcohol to even wash them to gargle. Is a normal thing. Like you said, you have these drinks that are so cheap. I know in somewhere like Plateau, you can get burukutu. I don't know how. I'm sure it's very cheap.
Yeah,
These things
Brokutu,
are like,
Brokutu and Plateau.
yeah, they are so cheap. Pito, all those things, you can get them so easily. So it's kind of a culture. In places where it's a culture, where drinking is a culture, how can you help? Because it's like not everybody here is a drunkard now. A lot of us are not alcoholics, but why drinking is part of our lives. What is the big deal? How do you help a child growing up in that kind of place so that they're not seen as your own is too much? Is everybody here an alcoholic? Why are you coming and saying we should not drink?
Well, nobody have the power to stop everybody from drinking. You
Obviously,
understand?
yeah.
Even for us Christians, the same Bible that I will rely on to say I will not drink alcohol or you should not drink alcohol, it's the same Bible the other person will rely on and say there's nothing wrong in drinking alcohol. It now become a thing of perception.
Very true.
Now, it's not about the culture of a people or the number of a people. It's about that one person you are interested in. I agreed to do this interview and talk a whole lot about myself because of that one person whom I don't know, but I know Christ's love, and I know by this discussion hearing this tape, either now or later, that person is going to leave alcohol. That's the love I have for the person. So it may not be your child, it could be a relative, it could be a neighbor's child, it could be somebody. Is that one person you focus on, one at a time. For the person who there is no obvious thing to hold on to, is difficult. Let me give you a story. When I first started doing this, and I started from uh, my Facebook, I started talking about alcohol on my Facebook page, though I don't do Facebook right now. And one of a friend, acquaintance sort of, in my place, Benue State, he raised a whole lot of insults and say it's because you cannot handle it, you're not telling everybody not to drink, blah blah blah. I didn't say anything. But few months after, what happened? He got so drunk. The story that was that he started drinking from that morning or that particular day till the night of that day, and he slumped. They rushed him to the hospital. I think 2 days after, he passed on. You see, it's safer for the man who is misbehaving and everybody knows, because a problem that is known is half solved, right? The one whose own case is not known is very close to death because it's internal. Something is going on internally. That's why I quickly draw that distinction. It's not everybody that is that deep that misbehaves. It's not how the person handle it that is the question. Is the compulsive nature of your drink, the craving, the fact that you cannot do without it. That's what defines addiction, not the output, not how he conducts himself, but the fact that you cannot do without it. You are under the control, not you control it. You are already an addict. So you can't go about telling everybody not to drink, not to drink. You won't make any headway.
It's not realistic, is it?
Big. For instance, you go to weddings, you go for functions and all that. It's for you to decide. For me, for instance, they don't hold. I have been a member of school associations, even family associations, and each time they want me to host them, I give my condition, and they withdraw. What's my condition? I already have a rule in my house. Alcohol does not enter my house. My wife can make kunu very well. So if you come, you drink kunu, you drink water. Or any other non-alcoholic
Any other
drink.
drink.
But because the majority are on that side, they say, no, let's take another venue. I'm okay with that. I need to protect my children. I need to protect my children.
And yourself.
And before I forget, don't be ashamed of telling your children your story. It will help them. It will help them. My first son is 10. He's 10 now. But I've started telling him, I'm not just telling him, don't drink. No. Say, that's my enemy. And this is why it's my enemy. This is what it did to me. Do you understand? I try to paint the picture in a manner that his age can understand. And the younger one who was 7, who is now 7, my wife was telling me they went to a house recently and he said he want to drink water. And And the moment he opened the fridge, he saw alcohol there. He closed the fridge. And the mom asked him, "You say you are thirsty. Why are you not drinking water?" He said, "No. These people are not good people. Let's go home." He said, "Why?" He said, "They are not good people. Let's go home." So when they left on their way back, he started saying, "Buy me water." I said, "But you refuse to that." He said, "No, they are not good people. They have alcohol in their fridge." You see, a deposit
Okay,
has been
yes.
made.
I
A
I
deposit
like
has
this
been made.
question. Let's answer this question quickly before we go, because the truth is that like you said, social events. I don't have even though to be. I'll tell you the honest truth. Um, I didn't grow up seeing my parents drink anyhow. My mom would take a little red wine in the house. My father occasionally when he had guests, you know. And growing up as an adult, I'm not the person that you would just see buying drinks to drink in my house. You know, as a Christian, as a believer, I would say, okay, if I go for an event and there's champagne, I will drink champagne, I will toast to it. But as my children got older, I have two children that are in the university. I started being more intentional because I said it would be hypocritical for me to tell them to advise them not to drink, and me, I am drinking. Even if it's just that wine that's in, do you understand, in the house, it will be, I'll be a bit hypocritical about. So I don't, so I started being more intentional about what I was doing, and my actions. So when I'm telling them things, it makes sense. So this question, in protecting your children while they're with you, there's peer pressure. That's one thing that a lot of people deal with. So there are two things I will ask. I want you to answer Ngozi's question quickly. How about peer pressure? And then also,
Okay.
what no, just after that you answer this, what is one of the worst things that you can say addiction did to you or it took from you? You've been restored now, but what was one thing you can say, look, this is what addiction can do? So those are the two questions I have for you.
Okay. Let me answer the first one from in protecting your child. How about peer pressure? When I started, I talk about the mind of a child being a blank slate, and the first person that have the opportunity to write on that slate is the parents. The depth of what you write on that heart, on that mind, will determine greatly how the person will handle peer pressure. Now, my father never sat me down one day to say, "Don't steal." But he was able to print in my mind the value of integrity by telling me his story with his master. He is a trained motor mechanic. He was trained by an Igbo man. And he told me that when the war broke out, his master had to run to the east and left the workshop for him. And they have an agreement where they meet near the border between Benue and Enugu. There's a place they meet. And whatever money he makes, he will take to his master there. And it continued until the war became serious. Both of them were nearly killed, and he said, "Don't ever come again. Whatever is there is now yours." Now, that story prints in my heart the value of integrity. The integrity pays, because everything he made was from that one that the master left for him. If he were not sincere, he said when the master was going away, he was not the most senior, but he was the one he trusted.
Mm.
So that mold, no matter what I do, even at the peak of our addiction, I was not touching people's money. How did I got that? And I was not born again to say it's the preaching, it's the message that is wasn't born again. But there are things I still could not do. Why? Because they were able to print that in my active today. In the office today, virtually everybody look for how to cut corners to make money. But I say God will multiply my seed, which is my salary. Why? Somebody has done a good job when I was growing up. So if you prepare your child to face the outside world, he will definitely face the outside world. It's not just by saying I am not drinking, no, you don't know. See that if you have done it before and seen the negative, let them know to help them. If you have not done it before, you know somebody who did it, and what it did to that person is also a good way to prepare the child.
Talk to them.
And they just have to know that out there they will meet the great temptation and all that. And then when you bring them in the way of the Lord and all that, make them your friend, it will help a great deal.
Thank you, Felix.
Now to the second question. What was that thing that he did that hurt so much? He took away my pride. That was it. Every other thing you can. Okay, I failed the exam, I wrote, I passed. Right? It's what I do with that certificate now that matters. You know, but it leaves a sore taste when I remember certain things that happened. Till today, it leaves a sore taste. It's bitter each time my mind goes and all that. But the good thing is, the joy now is it's no longer hurting as deep as it should be, because I just take them as material for the next lesson, material for the next engagement. But actually, it's not what I will to happen to even an enemy if I have one.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It robs you of your pride, your dignity. Robs you of your pride, your dignity. Lose your respect.
I remember you told me how there was someone that met you when you were in one of those situations. The person saw you and said,
yes,
I didn't know that you were a lawyer. You actually, because he had met you, he was like, this person can be. And he was shocked.
Yeah.
So, and that's deep. It robs you of your pride, all the situations, all the things. The truth is that I love what you said. And Dr. Ebele, to talk to you, peer pressure is strong. Even in adults, peer pressure is very strong. But the truth is that there is this law of first to get there. I call it first to get there. If you mention something to your child, you are the first person to talk about that situation. You can paint the right picture. This is why I tell people, talk to your child about sex, talk to them about drugs, talk to them about all these vices that you're trying to avoid. Talk to them and be real. Don't tell them, oh, if a boy will touch you, you get pregnant, because it's not true. Tell them, break it down to them and tell them why you want them to stay pure, why premarital sex is not advisable. Give them, that's their curiosity, so that they understand it. So that when somebody else comes, they say, no, this has already been explained to me. I understand what it's about, and this is what I choose to do. I want to stay like this for this reason. If you've told them about, why it pays to be honest, and they've seen that this is how I want to go, then there's no amount of peer pressure that will make them turn, unless they choose to. At the end of the day, one thing that God has given us is free will and a choice. But as a parent, it is your role to give them the necessary tools, teach them. Like Felix said, a child is almost more or less, a blank slate. He's a product of nature versus nurture. How are you nurturing that child? What have you planted in that child? What have you taught him, even from the day he's born? What are you saying to him or her? What are you instilling in him? What kind of values? If you listen to David's video, David is the guy that spoke about drug addiction. That was his issue. David went to a Christian school, secondary school. He went to a Christian university. But he said that what was missing was the value system, that his parents didn't help him that have that self-confidence. They didn't talk to him about drugs. It was when he entered university he saw drugs, and drugs looked like a glorified, like a glorious thing to him. The people were having fun using drugs, and that was why, and that was the seed that was sown in his life at that age. I think it was like 18 or so, you know. So talk, don't be afraid to talk to your child about these things. These topics are
Yes.
important. If somebody tells you that this is wrong, this is not, and they explain to you why, because children are very curious. This is why, this is how I can destroy, this is what it did to me. I did this and I regret doing it, and the child will take an informed decision to say, okay, you know what, I've learned better. Because you're Unilag, so you know what students are dealing with. A lot of children, some children who are going through stuff, they are looking for attention, validation. Talk to your children, be there for them, show them love. Maybe they are going through stuff, peer pressure. Everybody is doing it and they don't know who to talk to. You've not even spoken to them about it. Please take time to talk to your children from an early age. Don't let the first time they hear about drugs or pornography be outside. Let it be you that will tell them this is wrong, this is that. If you've gone through it, you share your experiences. If you've not, thank God, but you tell them experiences, show them this video. You know, he won't want to go into all the things that he had to deal with, but thank God that today he's standing here, he's happy, he's fulfilled, and he can help others through what he has gone through. So if your child is dealing or struggling with anything, if you are struggling with anything, there's help available. There's help through God. There are people who are counselors who can talk to you, who can teach you, who can reach you. And the main point I always want to say is that it starts from the home. The home is the bedrock of the society, the family. It starts from the home. When you see people misbehaving anywhere in life, it's from, go back to, just look back to their home setting, and you'll see that there is anomalies there which are manifesting in the person 40, 50, 60 years later. Honestly, that is the truth. If you look at anybody that's been behaving, trace it back, most of them, almost 90%, it's from the home. It's something that happened that went wrong there. So I want to thank everybody. Yes, you must be with your child. You must be follow up with them, communicate with them. I talk about it all the time. I have two in university now. We communicate. They tell me stuff. I tell them stuff. They know, I know what's going on. Don't be aloof to think that, oh, your child is not seeing what's happening to other children. People are doing things and your child is privy to everything. They can see it all. What's how you have raised them, those values you've instilled in them is what will help them say no and say, no, I'm not going to indulge in this. So I really want to take time to thank everyone who has joined us on this call, everyone who has tuned in, has to share this. I want to thank my brother Felix
Thank you very much.
Abuedache. Thank you so
You're welcome.
much.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
being, for taking time to reach out. And any parting words, because by signing off, do you have any parting words for all those who are listening and who are trying to help their child, and who are going to, to prevent and to deal with addiction of any kind, not just alcohol? Parting words.
Yes. Just to say this, let's kick addiction from our homes. Kicking addiction from your home means kicking addiction from the society, because everything
Mm,
begin from the family. So let's help ourselves and help our children. Let's prepare them for the university, for the higher institution, because you are not there with them. That's a world of its own. The campus is a world of its own. So you have between age 1 to 20 to prepare the child to face that 4 5 years in the university. But I tell you, that 5 years is so strong and so important that it can change the course of the child's life. So use that time you have them with you to prepare them for the critical stage ahead. Above all, point them to Christ by living the life of Christ.
mm,
Point them to
mm.
Christ by living the life of Christ. You are the picture they know. You are the Jesus they can see. You are the one they can easily follow. Thank you very much. I know God will help us all in
Thank
Jesus'
you.
name.
Thank you so much. Thank you. On that note, I'd like to say good night. Don't forget to connect with me if you're following me. It's the same name, Chioma, with an H at the end of my Chioma Moma. Um, if your child is going to university, you've heard it. If you've not been doing, there's a lot of work to do, and you're going to continue. Parenting does not end once you send them off. It's another phase. So let's continue to raise children that will be wholesome, that we can be proud of, that will succeed by the grace of the Almighty God. Thank you so much
Amen.
for joining us and hope to see you again. Good night and God bless
Good
you.
night. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Don't forget to share this video. Thank you.